Hello, my name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Executive Talk. Those that are watching live and those that are listening later on our podcast, thank you so much for joining us in today's segment. Today, we're going to talk about, is your management team insured? I'm sure those larger companies are thinking about this. They may have this insurance policy in place, but there's a lot of companies out there who don't actually have this insurance policy in place. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of companies who may consider this a frivolous need for their business. But today we're actually going to talk about it because it's actually a very important need to your business. And with me today is I have Rick Callaway with AccuSure Business Insurance to actually talk to us about the importance of having this insurance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Rick to the stage. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing just great. Looking forward to another great show and getting the information out to businesses.
That's it. I appreciate you doing this because, again, to me, from what I understand, it's one of those things that I don't hear often, and I'm very deep into the business world. But is this something that do you find a lot of business owners paying attention to this product?
They actually miss this coverage frequently. A large company that has all these lawyers running around telling them what to do, pick up these coverages. Smaller businesses may not. Even nonprofits need this coverage, and they, don't pay attention to it. There's many pieces of the puzzle of management liability. Some companies need all of them. Some companies need one of them. So you can purchase them as a bundle where you get them all, or you can purchase them piecemeal. But
Okay.
Every company needs at least one of them, maybe two or three.
And that's fair. So let's go ahead and talk about that because everybody has a particular entity type in order to be in business. So this first point that you have is what type of business entities need management liability policies. So right now you have corporations, LLC, and nonprofits. Go ahead and talk to us a little bit further about your experience and what you've seen in each of these categories.
Well, corporations definitely need all of these coverage because they've got a board of directors. So they have to protect the directors and officers of the company. One that is missed that is not thought of needing a directors and officers because we're an LLC. We don't have directors and officers. And technically that's true, but you still have to protect investors in your LLC. You have to protect that entity. And nonprofits go, we're a nonprofit. Who the heck's going to sue us? You wouldn't believe it happens more often than you think. So all of these entities, nonprofits, LLCs, corporations, the only ones that don't need particular pieces of the puzzle are, sole proprietors, but they still have employees. So they need one piece of the coverage because, the only way you can get out of lawsuits from employees is not have employees. So you're going to have these things. And you know what? All make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So we need to be sure we're protected from ourselves. We make mistakes and we need to have it covered. We don't mean to upset anyone or offend anyone or make a mistake in what we're supplying to a client, but it happens and you need to be protected. And it's a whole lot cheaper to do it through insurance than have to pay for it out of your own pocket.
Rick, that's a huge point there. Is you said the difference between when you're a sole proprietor, when it's just you don't think about these things. But the moment you start to hire folks, your entity has changed dynamically. It has exposed itself to possibilities of new growth, leverage, different capabilities that you didn't have by yourself personally. But as soon as you actually hire somebody, there's another issue that actually starts to develop, and the possibilities are endless as to how deep this thing can go. So I want everybody to really wrap their minds around what Rick is saying when it comes to, yes, just because you have an LLC, just because you have a corporation, just because you have a nonprofit, as soon as you have people that are in your company, your dynamics of your company has changed. Am I hearing that? Am I repeating that correctly, Rick?
You said it absolutely correctly.
So let's talk about that. I'm going to start talking about the management team, and I'm going to quarterback this for a couple because I want everybody to actually understand what the dynamics are when it comes to your management team and what they really go through and what they're exposed to. So the management team, and I looked this up online so everybody can look this out. This is AI's information. And some of it says strategic and operational pressures. And this is your management team, folks. Setting and executing strategy. Management must set the company's direction and ensure strategies are executed effectively, which involves planning, organizing, and controlling resources. Market changes and competition. The team needs to adapt to the evolving market conditions and competitive pressures to maintain a strong position in the industry. Decision making. Managers are constantly making critical decisions that impact the organization, requiring strong judgment and strategic thinking. Financial performance. There is an ongoing pressure to meet financial goals, including profitability and budget adherence. There's actually one more that I wanted to show everybody. Interpersonal and team related challenges. Conflict resolution. Management teams often deal with interpersonal conflicts that arise within the departments or between different teams. Employee engagement and morale. Ensuring employees are motivated, engaged, and supported is a constant challenge that directly impacts productivity. Communication across departments. Effective communication is vital for management team, especially in cross-functional settings to prevent silos and ensure everyone is aligned. Building trust and morale. A manager's behavior significantly impacts team morale, so they must foster a positive and supportive work environment. And there's one more, folks. Stay with me. These are highly important folks. This has everything to do with what we're talking about when it comes to insurance. Interpersonal and external influences, legal and ethical dilemmas. Management teams can be exposed to legal challenges and ethical situations that require careful navigation to maintain compliance and protect the company's reputation. Technical, Technological advancements, the need to adapt new technologies and adapt to digital transformation is an ongoing exposure for management team. Economic fluctuations. External economic factors can significantly impact the company's performance, and management teams must navigate these challenges. Employee development. Ensuring the team's skills are up to date and developing the future leaders is a continuous responsibility. So we just went through those lists, Rick. What stands out to you? And I'll talk about some of the things that stand out to me.
Well, interesting piece of all of those items that used to be between executives in the company or an executive between an employee at a lower level. Go move your desk, go do this. You're fired, you're hired. But HR is involved more and more in all of these things because of all the new rules and regulations. You have to be very careful in how you communicate, who you're communicating to. Is it just between department heads, or is it between department heads and an employee, a lower level employee, or is it between the president of the company and a lower level employee? You used to be able to walk around the floor and talk to the employees and make suggestions, but now you got to be careful because everybody has their hackles up about something they've heard somewhere or someplace. Hey, he's not supposed to tell me this. He can't talk to me like this. He's got to talk to my boss before they talk to me. So HR is very involved in these things, making sure that communications always flows the way it's supposed to, because all of these things, it's all communications, whether you're talking to shareholders, making a decision about one thing or another, it's all related to communications.
Spot on, Rick. Spot on. One of the things that occurred to me as I was reading this and thinking about today's program is owners, there's a burden that your management team takes on. In this piece that the internet had provided for it, is talk about you're the middle person. Yes, you're the middle person of between the owner, representing the company's interests and thoughts and processes, and trying to influence the body, which is the employees, when you're still an employee yourself. So you have this picture this, folks. You have this infrastructure that's going on that looks very vast, very, very broad. You have your customer service team, and then you have this guy or gal in the middle as the management team. They're relaying information down to you, and to an employee, it may look like you're showing favoritism to one of the employees over here. Well, they could have had a directive just by their perception of it all. They can actually get offended and say you're doing this. It does not take much to get people offended. Everybody knows, just being human, it does not take much to be offended by a lot of stuff. And so you think about the navigation, trying to navigate your vision to this management and trying to influence employees who have different perspectives than what you do. So like Rick had brought up, as Rick has mentioned, as far as HR, they have to be heavily involved into this management team and also the interpersonal relationships, because you could have said something directly to somebody, but their interpretation of what you said is now a conflict. So there is a burden that takes on when it comes to the management team. And I don't know how frequently. Now, here's a caveat to all this. Your management team actually does not speak to the CEO and say, hey, this is what I'm going through, because there's a fear there. The fear is, folks, if I'm a management, I keep on coming to you with issues, it's going to look like I'm incompetent or I'm struggling with handling this power that you get given me as far as the management. So can I bring it to you, or do I end up dealing with it? I end up dealing with it to the best of my ability. And that's where you see your management team start to break down, because they're battling your vision, their understanding, trying to interpret your vision into these employees who may or may not really get on board with what's happening. So that's what I've experienced and what I've seen, within the dynamics of the workplace, as to why we're talking about this. Rick, is there anything within what I said that that you didn't agree with?
No, it makes perfect sense. The management team, you've got multi levels of management, and you've got the CEO way up here, and then you've got the floor manager way down here. The vision is coming from here, and it's trying to get through all the lower level employees. And they may not even see what the vision is. All they see is, I got to produce 25 widgets today. They're not interested, nor do they care about what the hell the vision is, because I just want to make my widgets and get paid. But the floor manager has to look at all the things that are going on. Hey, do I have employee conflicts? Do I have all of this? You're always going to have employee conflicts. Some of them lesser or more important than the others. That's why HR is. You probably go to an HR professional before you worry about the CEO, because the HR professionals are becoming more and more involved. HR person in the old days used to just deal with employee benefits and making sure somebody got hired. Now they're dealing with all these new regulations, what can be said, what can be done, how you hire, fire, lay off, do any of these things. So something happening on the floor may float up to HR going, hey, you got to be careful when you address this employee about whatever. Your communications and how the rules work and how you treat the employee are significantly different than it used to be probably just 10 years ago. I mean, I'll be 76 in 4 days. So I've seen a lot of changes in how employees and how businesses operate. They basically operate very similar. They make their widgets, they do this, they do that, but how all the other pieces fit in this puzzle are a whole lot more different than it used to be.
That's precisely right. Just imagine this, folks, and just one more point. Imagine you have a goal. You have a quarterly goal that you want to excel in profits over the next quarter. That could be your primary goal, and you're trying to increase sales, increase whatnot. Now what we end up doing as CEOs is we offer what's called an incentive. Hey, go ahead and offer everybody incentive. If they reach this goal, this is what they can get. Well, remember, your management team is now carrying the burden of that new goal, because their job actually requires for you to reach that goal. So that means your communication as a management team has changed to your employees, or to the employees, because you're pressuring them to say, hey, let's pump out these numbers. You're trying to motivate. You know how the sales team meetings go on Monday morning. Hey, let's get it going, because that sales team conversation is actually a motivation from a vision that the CEO has, that the management team is trying to pass down to the employees. Now, the employees are not currently there. That's when you get that friction. And so, again, understand the dynamics as to what you're operating. Just because you created a new goal makes you a visionary as a CEO, but that vision comes with a cost.
And if
And I want you to understand how it works. Go ahead, Rick.
the sales team is motivated you got to sell more widgets, and they bust their rear ends and they get, increase their sales, then there's an issue. I promised the client I'd deliver these widgets by whatever date. Now the people making the widgets go, hey, we can only make 6 of these things a day or 20 of them a month. We cannot meet what you promised the client. Now we've got an issue. You just violated the contract. You told me you were going to deliver these things. Guess what happens? They either demand better pricing, faster delivery, or they say, we're going to sue the heck out of you because you missed the deadline and impacted our business because we needed your whatever to make our systems run better. So all of this stuff is connected. You have to keep all areas of the company connected. One company can't promise what the other side of the company can't deliver, or guess what? The lawyers never seem to lose. They can always make money. So you miss the deadline, we're going to sue somebody and we're going to make money, and the company loses money, and then the employees are hurt because now something else has to be taken care of to meet what happened. We're going to have to pay overtime. We're going to have to do whatever.
That's huge. That's huge. And then, we're really driving home this point, folks, because here's the deal. These are one of those details. These are one of those insurances. When it comes to insurance, we're no different than personal insurance. We look at this stuff as if that's not going to affect me. That's not my company. We all get along. You better really rethink about it. Rethink about your statement, because these are the holes, and it doesn't take much to develop a hole and for that hole to become a bigger issue. So really considering, I want to make sure you really drive this point. We drive this point home within you, that it is highly important when we talk about some of these different variables, and Rick starts to talk about these insurance. So let's actually talk about these insurances and some of the policies people can look into. We have, what is a management liability policy? What does that mean?
Management liability policy is a package, so to speak, of multi-coverage. One, you've got the directors and officers, you've got the employment practices liability, you've got fiduciary liability, and you've got crime. They can all be in there, or pieces of the puzzle. Fiduciary, any company that has a 401k or employee benefits, they have to have fiduciary liability. This covers their mistakes in managing those coverages. And a 401k by ERISA law is required to have fiduciary liability. So if you have one of those coverages, you better have fiduciary liability. Otherwise, you've got problems. Like I said, we all make mistakes, and we see the mistakes in the employee liability coverage. I mean, the fiduciary coverage is an employee benefit. They set up when you're eligible for your benefits, 90 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever the number is. And somehow the guy that's the human resources person that's supposed to handle that stuff forgets to let the company know that, hey, we got a new employee. He's eligible for this health care tomorrow, the next day, whatever. And sure as heck, that's the employee that's going to go to the hospital, and all of a sudden he has no coverage. And that mistake is covered by the fiduciary liability. So the employee gets taken care of, it's all covered, and everybody's happy. Without that coverage, we've probably got a bunch of unhappy people. Upper management is unhappy because you made a mistake. The employee is unhappy because he didn't have any coverage when he went to the hospital, and he should have had that coverage.
Gotcha. Okay. This one's interesting. So directors and officers, so when we talk about this, is this pertaining to, so there's management team, is directors and officers a higher level, or is that still the same thing, Rick?
Directors and officers covers the executives of the company, the board members of the companies. And there's actually 3 pieces of this thing. They're called coverage A, B, and C.
Okay.
And coverage A protects the individual directors when they're sued. In most lawsuits, that have to do with this type of claim, they sue the company and they sue the individual directors. So, if I've got a director working for me, I'm going to want to make sure he's covered. Then there's what's called side B, and don't see this coming in very often. There used to be clauses in contracts with the executives that said, hey, you make a mistake, it's your problem, it's not our problem. So side C covers the directors and officers would pay for the reimbursement, but I haven't seen that happen in a long time. And then
Okay.
side C basically says we're going to cover the company and the claims, especially related to securities violations. LLCs don't have to worry about this, but obviously publicly traded companies or any company that has investors, they need to have that. You make a mistake with my money, I'm not going to be very happy.
Okay. Interesting. Take notes, folks. Take notes. Remember, just because you're not there does not mean you may not get there. This could be you. So each one that Rick is talking about, remember, you might fit in a category today. So you might be under management, or you might be headed towards directors and officers based on the direction of your company, based on, maybe you have a big decision that could change the trajectory. Make sure you understand that these are different levels, folks. So see where you are and see where you might end up. Let's talk about employment practice liability policy. What does that entail?
This is becoming a key coverage, and this is needed for just about any company you can think of. This is when an employee is unhappy with something that you did or said or moved, fired him wrongfully. He's going to turn around and sue. Or you changed his job description without him knowing it and then say, hey, you didn't perform correctly. We're going to look at how we're going to pay you next year. Wait a minute. I didn't know you had changed my job description. How can you change my job description and then reduce my pay or increase my responsibilities without us having any discussion? That's an employee practices liability coverage. Or you've instituted a new policy where only people wearing white shirts can go in this part of the building. I mean, that's silly, but it's companies do strange things. They make up a rule without thinking about it. They're thinking they're making something easier for the company or a direction for them to go, and it makes somebody unhappy. That's why HR has to be involved with any of these business decisions on how, especially when it relates to employees. So that's why and it's going to be included in the package with the directors and officers and all of those coverage, or it can be a separate piece. That's why it's called a management liability policy, because it can encompass all of these things or just pieces of the puzzle. Almost everybody needs, if they have employees, they need one piece of this puzzle. You have employees, you better have employment practice liability, because no matter how good a manager you are, something's going to happen. People are sensitive today. They are easily offended. And there's lawyers out there running around going, hey, we found a mistake. We're going to sue you. There's attorneys firms that go find a particular event that they can go grab a lot of potential clients for to sue. So you have to be careful of what's said and done, because especially in like a state like California, we got more lawyers here than we have people living here. So they've got to make a living. So they're looking for a way to gather clients. And employment practices liability or lawsuits against employers are, an easy place to go.
Oh man, Rick, you got me going. This example I want everybody to think of and picture in your mind. No different than a relationship. When you first met the person, you're a guy or a gal, you were enamored with that person for the first year. Let's just say the first year. It didn't get weird until after that, until everybody got settled in. You still thought you were in that relationship with the same person that you met that first day that you're enamored with for that year. Well, something has changed. They got a little bit older. They think differently. You forgot to roll with the changes. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because we're talking about relationships? No, we're talking about business now. Here's the business. The same person that you hired is not the same person that's there a year from now. Let's just say. What do I mean by that? They were extremely excited. They love the job opportunity. They're happy about having a job. They're happy about working for your company. They're happy about the vision. But then that same relationship changed a little bit because that person has finally got settled in. Now they're looking at the relationship a little bit differently. They're looking at the company differently. So now they're starting to the relationship dynamics have changed. Now they've had more interactions with you. The two of you were amazing in the beginning, but now the two of you are starting to see each other's real self. Oh, you show up late all the time, or you always give me an order, but you never work. Right? Those dynamics have shown itself. So now the relationship has changed. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is that in that employment practices is that they may have changed their tone and feelings about working for you. So if somebody's looking for a different job, they're not always looking for a different job because of pay. They're also looking for a different job because of how they feel working for your company, what's happening. That's a red flag. It's almost actually a good position that they found a new job before they went to because the longer that they would have stayed, a lawsuit would have came to. And it's almost kind of saved the interaction that could have possibly went there. So that's why I'm bringing it up as far as having these insurance policies and understand your office, because a lot of people like to say, well, I pay you, you're happy, you're here, you keep showing up, and you're a happy camper. No, you got to do some check-ins, folks, because like Rick just mentioned, people are sensitive for sometimes for good reason, because we have taken for granted that relationship that we have. We just say we can do our vision. I pay you, you just do it. No, you don't. That way is surely developing all these lawsuits Rick is talking about.
You've also got the situation where, you've got company A and company B basically make the same thing, do things the same ways. Then you got an employee that used to work at the other company. Yes. Why did he leave the other company? Is he gonna bring you great work ethic, or is he gonna bring you great problems? So hiring is probably most critical piece of making sure you don't have these problems. You have to be thorough when you're, hiring people. Just don't take the paper application that says I worked here, I got these grades, I did this. Talk to the person. See if you pick up any strange, vibes from the things he's saying. And be careful that you document everything, because if you don't hire me because you didn't like my hair color, then we got a problem. But if you document, hey, we have these specific questions we ask all of these employees because we've learned that in our relating to all the other employees in these companies, if they're not on the same page, then we've got problems. And if you document this, you're most likely not going to have any lawsuits. But nothing is perfect. You have to protect yourself the best you can. We all, none of us go to work going, oh, I'm going to cause problems for my employees today. We all go to work to do our job, because all we want to do is do our job, get paid, go home to our family, and get on with life. But stuff still happens. Some people like conflict, so they go, gee, how can I sue my boss today? Will that make me extra money if I sue my boss? Not realizing, it might make you extra money, but you better get a whole lot, because you're probably not going to get employed in the same field.
That is right. That's right. And this here's another policy here, fiduciary liability policy. Explain to us a little bit further in regards to that.
This protects people that handles the employee benefits in the 401k. ERISA law demands that if you have a 401k, you have this coverage. And for employees that have benefits, like I said a little bit earlier, you're in charge of benefits. You're supposed to get the guy enrolled in his benefits. You forget. Guy goes to the hospital, doesn't have coverage. This fiduciary picks up those mistakes. It's not a real complicated coverage. You make a mistake, we take care of it.
Cybercrime. That's always, this is again one of those silent assassins within the company, but it's still there. Talk to us about this from a management perspective.
It's included in some management policies, or or it's purchased separately, and somebody gets in the computer, ransom your coverage. Somebody gets in and steals a bunch of data, names, addresses, social security numbers, and you know, opens credit cards in your name. That's all cyber liability, and this is becoming an issue because as fast as somebody figures out a way to lock somebody out of a computer, somebody makes a mistake. The biggest way hackers get into computer systems is you get an email and you click on a link and bingo, you've just downloaded something into somebody's computer. I mean, there's 7 parts to a cyber policy, and each one of them has separate coverages under that. It picks up a lot of details that you don't want to think of, but if you have email, you better have cyber. And if that's the only thing you have, obviously the premium for this is going to be a lot less. But if you're doing a lot of things on the internet, you may have a higher cost to this. And almost everyone is instituting what's called multi-factor authorization. If you don't have that within your company, you're not even going to be able to get cyber liability. When you log into your systems, it's going to say, hey, we're going to send you a text with a code in it to make sure you put it in there. I mean, I go to, I don't know how many different websites when I'm quoting insurance. Every one of them now has multi-factor authentication. It's a pain in the rear end, but it's the way to protect to make sure the person is logging into the website is supposed to be the one that's logging into the website.
Makes sense. Rick, obviously this is a huge piece. Again, like we had mentioned before in the beginning, it's a huge piece, but it's missed over quite often. People don't think that they need it.
I make people, every new proposal I put out there, I include cyber liability. And if you don't take the cyber liability, I make you sign that you're not taking the cyber liability. I had a client that I proposed cyber liability. He goes, oh, I never need that stuff. And sure as heck, he called me, about a week later. Hey, we got a false claim. We got an email from our supplier saying, hey, we've got a new bank. We want you to deposit the money in. So they paid the bill by depositing the money. Guess what? It wasn't the client. So they were out $25,000. I would have loved to say, hey, I told you so, you needed this coverage, but that wouldn't have been real smart. But had he had this coverage, they would have been protected. There's no other place in your policies where this coverage occurs.
That's fair. Rick, do you want to leave us with a final thought? I mean, obviously we've talked about a lot of different coverages within management policy. Talk to what is your final thought? What do you want to leave people with to make the next step?
Talk to your insurance broker and make sure you've looked into management liability coverage. You may think it's something you don't need, but guess what? You probably need one piece or more of that. Because like I said, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, and that's what the coverage is for. It's not for you going out and deciding, oh, I'm going to fire a bunch of employees wrongfully so I can get sued. You make a mistake when you fire somebody, maybe you didn't follow all the proper procedures, so that brings a lawsuit. Talk to a competent insurance broker and make sure you've investigated all of these coverages, because business is different than it used to be.
Absolutely. Thank you again, as always, Rick, for bringing up these topics, because, again, from the business perspective, just like the personal perspective, when it comes to insurance, we always say the same thing. We don't need that. And we sure as heck do need that, folks. And that's the point of this conversation. So Rick will be back next month, and we'll have another conversation. The next person that we're probably going to talk to, for everybody's interest, is we're going to probably have Tony Friday on, and we're going to talk some more HOA information and things of that nature. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, Rick, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you here next month.
Thank you, and it was my pleasure.
All right. So for everybody else still here, thank you so much for joining us in today's segment. I want you to really, again, piece all this together. Take it absolutely seriously as far as the management team is concerned. Protect yourself. Insurance, yes, is one of those silent costs that sits there and you have to pay on a monthly or annual basis or whatever your relationship is. But guess what? It just so happens the day you think you don't need it, you needed it. Just like Rick brought up in the cyber example. He didn't think he needed it. But guess what? Just so happens a week later, he needed it. It's the same thing with your management policy. You just never know. And as you have a great functioning business, the fact that you have the ability to hire folks and provide a lifestyle and to keep people going is an amazing opportunity. You've done a great job, and I want to congratulate you. I want you to also protect yourself as well. Make sure you are moving forward, and that's what Rick is really trying to impress upon your mind today, is that just keep moving forward. You just never know. We're not trying to make you not hire folks. We just want to make sure that you hire folks and secure yourself in the meantime. So for everybody, I want to thank you again for joining in on Executive Talk. Rick and I, we actually have to get back to work. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.